And couldn't, I don't want to make anyone cry or anything, but I want to get this to the personal level. I'm assuming if you guys are so active that you've been affected, you know people that might have overdosed, you might have family members who have this problem. Like you said, Hannah, you've struggled. Kind of paint a picture. What has this done, and what has this affected you two personally?
Yeah. For me, like I said, I got into opioids after I got my wisdom teeth taken out. I just kind of knew that they were used recreationally and used to get high. And I have had personal issues with like anxiety and depression and stuff like that. So I was going to school, I had just started my degree at IUPUI. And I kind of just, I assume that addiction was just, I was more prone to being drawn towards something like this because of my mental issues, because it, was in my genes or something like that. But it really took me down very quickly. And I kind of like uncontrollably had like a one-track mind, which was just getting high. And it got to the point where I didn't want to go to school unless I was high. It worsened my anxiety, but I was completely stuck in this, feeling that it was giving me. Luckily, I had insurance from my dad works at GM, so I was extremely lucky to have insurance to go to rehab. If I didn't have rehab, I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have been able to. There got to a point where I was like wishing that someone would, give me some type of ultimatum. But it's like I was going to say, give me an ultimatum to my mom or whatever. But it finally got to the point where I had nothing else to do. I was going to be homeless, and all these people without opportunities with their insurance or with Medicaid and stuff like that, they aren't given the option. And I really fundamentally don't think that's fair, that just because I happened to be born into a family that had good insurance, I was given the chance to live. I don't see myself as better than anyone. And I've known so many poor people and so many homeless people that struggle, that are amazing, beautiful people. And they're seen as, weak, or they're seen as, if you don't have money, that's because you don't try hard enough, or because, or whatever the case may be. And so that's a big reason why I want to try to fight for this. Is I don't think I deserve anything more than anyone else.
Yeah, I grew up here in Southern Indiana. I'm a fifth generation Hoosier, and I left for 10 years and moved back last year to build this organization. And the pervasiveness of kind of unmitigated opioid use, and like whether that's like I was walking by my house and someone had an overdose in front of me, or people I went to high school with are dead. It was, even though like I knew intellectually like, oh, lots of people are using opioids back where I'm from, it was stunning to me like how much things had changed and how much it's changed the day-to-day life, how many children are struggling with their parents with drug use, with teachers, with kids in classroom. Like it is a public health crisis for sure.
Well, also bringing it back to expanding Medicaid or Medicare for all, I remember I was covering an airport worker strike in Miami, and a lot of Latinos that were striking, and I spoke with one man, and I could tell he was kind of grimacing in his face throughout the interview, and I asked him, "Are you all right?" And he was like holding onto his shoulder, and he said, very bad pain, but I can't afford to go to the doctor or the hospital or whatever. And I saw him take a pill out of and that was like the most real I've seen it, because I never experienced that kind of addiction, Ambien to a certain degree. But you see it every day where people, because they don't have health care, have no choice other to self-medicate and this and that. Do you feel you could actually make progress in a Congress that, on Monday they're trying to repeal Obamacare, on Tuesday, Trump's creating whatever half-baked plan that isn't a plan, is an insurer giveaway? What progress can be made towards that message of expanding Medicaid or Medicare for all? I know, it's a tough question.
It's not, I think a bunch of progress has been made. The fightbacks last year and the defense of Obamacare have changed people's understanding of the the role and necessity and human right of healthcare. And I mean, I'm a stubborn optimist, but I think in the next 10 years, we're going to see like some major movement on healthcare. And I think people are committed to fighting for it. So in the long, like 10 years, I feel very optimistic about what's going to happen on the front of healthcare. In the short term, I do think opioids is a getting bipartisan response, and our job, from where I sit, is to continually link the opioid crisis to other things like the right to healthcare, like the loss of manufacturing jobs, and the kind of complete decimation and disinvestment of our rural areas, and who's really at fault for that.
Yeah. And my last question. So, it seems like there's a warped psychology, when you watch cable news or you read corporate media, it's very, very like, oh, there's a foreign threat in Russia and, we're in danger. And obviously there are dangers, ISIS and these kinds of things. But the foreign threat seems to be, there's a premium put on that, and there's not the same emphasis on the domestic threat of things like, there's a mass epidemic, whatever you want to call it, of people dying in America through something that can be helped. But it doesn't seem to, there isn't like Trump, declared an emergency and then did nothing. But there doesn't seem to be that level of urgency and threat in the politician's mind. Do you see an imbalance there, and why do you think that is?
I'll say a little bit. I think a lot of that has to do with a lot of the corporate interests and kind of getting our minds off of keeping us in fear, keeping us worried about these huge threats without looking around us. And so if we're in fear of everyone else and wherever they're coming, and we're just so concerned about our own safety, we're not going to see that we have the means and to fix a lot of these problems around us. So yeah, I think that's just kind of like a diversion tactic. It seems to be to keep these corporations happy. And I mean, I think that people that lobby for big pharma and stuff like that, I think they're like the biggest donators in campaigns. So I mean, that just says so much right there. Just trying to keep our eyes closed to who's really pushing this epidemic and what we can do about it.
Kate, free plug. How do people find more about your organization? Do you need volunteers?
I was going to answer the question Hannah just answered and say our orientation is we build political will through organizing, and we need organizing across the country and more people in the game, because you're right, like more people are being impacted day to day by low wages and the opioid crisis than the Russians. So HoosierAction.org, we're a member-led organization. We are working on multiple issues right now, from housing to working on flipping our congressional district, which we feel really positively about. And we always need money.
Don't we all? I know more now because I'm independent now, so the viewers are funding me. I think it's awesome. I actually know a lot of activists in Indiana. The East Chicago lead story that I covered, I got from an activist in Indiana. And you guys have grit, and you also have had some pretty bad leadership over the last few years.
But there are so many good Hoosiers, and our work is to try to build chapters up and down this state, so in the next 5 years we can change the political dynamics, because the people of our state are amazing, and they're incredibly strong.
You are an eternal optimist. I like that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys very much. I will definitely share this all on my social for people in the area that want to come and rally with you, and I'm sure we'll talk more.
Great, and please call Brian, too. He's been organizing a lot. I think Simon gave you his number. And when should we look for this online?
I'm going to try to get it up tomorrow.
Sweet, thank you.
Awesome.
It was great to meet you.
Thank you, good to meet you.
Absolutely. Take care.
All right, you
Bye,
too.
you
Bye.
too.